What's going on, everybody? This is Renee with Neptune Cigars, PCA 2023. I would say it's an honor and a privilege, but I know he hates that kind of shit, so I'm going to skip that.
You can say it. I pretend. I really suck it all up. You know what I mean?
Really?
Nah,
That's not what you said before, right?
it's weird. Look, everybody likes to be acknowledged for their work, but it's kind of awkward too. You know what I mean? Because like it's a job, and it's my job to not make sucky cigars. So it's kind of like people are just telling you that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It is kind of weird. I don't understand the whole on a pedestal thing. That's a little creepy.
Yeah, that's true, but it's nice, it's flattering, right, to know that you're doing something right.
No, look, of course, everybody likes to be told they're doing a good job. It's human nature. But that whole man, myth, legend, expert this, master that, it gets a little weird. It's a little creepy.
I get it. Well, either way, it's great to be here with you, and thank you for taking the time with us today. Okay, so first things first, over the last year or two, the Sobremesa Brûlée Blue, in my personal experience at the store, people have been eating it up. Everyone loves it. They, whether or not they're into Connecticut's or flavored or whatever you want to say, people come back for more. So now I see over there's a new Brûlée Unicorn. What can you say about that?
Brûlée Blue Unicorn. You know what's interesting about the Brûlée Blue? So we sell way more Brûlées. So if you ask the average person which is better, the blue or the regular Brûlée, more people will go towards the regular Brûlée. What the Brûlée Blue does, though, is it's a slightly different blend. It's a bit heavier, and it kind of bridges that gap for people that tend to smoke heavier cigars that would very rarely ever smoke a Connecticut cigar. They still love the Brûlée Blue. You know what I mean? It satisfies a consumer that normally doesn't smoke a blonde cigar. And oftentimes for them, it's when they want that little bit more mild, creamy, but they still want it to have some oomph and some extra depth to it. For a lot of, like for me, I love it with my morning espresso. It's like just the perfect complement. And the thing is, that blend was patterned after, and this is memory-wise, but I used to smoke a cigar back in the late 80s made by Davidoff. They used to make a Cuban Dom Perignon. And I don't know why, the way the Brûlée Blue is, and look, it doesn't taste Cuban, right? But it reminds me of that cigar. It evokes that kind of feeling for me. So it has a real special place for me. And I'm really blessed that so many other people like it too. And it's really, when you think about it from a sales perspective, it's a terrible size. It's kind of a thick Lonsdale. I mean, it's not the standard Toro or Robusto. So the fact that it's so successful and it's kind of an odd size and so different, it's really nice to see that cigar do well, because I do think it's a special blend in that format. I really do.
Yeah, we have trouble keeping it in stock.
And I have trouble making enough of them. Part of the problem with that is the whole year of aging. So basically, I have to be 16 months ahead of the sales that we're doing this month. You know what I mean? And I'm always afraid to make too many, because what happens if it isn't popular 16 months from now? You have so much money. So it's not that I don't want to increase production. We have always been increasing production, but I don't know where the even keel point is on it, where I'm making the right number for the amount that want to be bought. Because I don't want to just say, oh, let me make 8,000 extra boxes to then find out 16 months later that, oh, no, what did I just do? Because not only would I have that, I would have not just the ones I made 16 months ago, too many of, the ones I made 15 months ago, too many of, the ones I made 14 months ago, too many of. I would have 16 months of too many. So I have to be judicious about it.
I don't know if you found that ceiling yet, though, because people are eating it up, man.
I mean, eventually you will. There's always a ceiling on something. But so getting back to what you were originally asking about, I made this year a unicorn based off the Brûlée Blue blend.
With a beautiful presentation, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted look. I wanted to give that sexy cigar something that's sexy. Look, unicorns are not. They're a terrible value proposition, right? They just are. I mean, unicorns are meant to be smoked for celebratory moments, birth of a grandchild, 25th anniversary, You're seeing your Iraq war buddy who you haven't seen in 30 years. I mean, that's the purpose of a unicorn, to mark a moment, to mark an occasion. So I wanted the presentation to be fitting of what that moment is. But is it a good value as a smoker? No. If you have $100, you're much smarter to buy 5 Muestras, 5 Saka Cons, 10 Mi Queridas, a bundle, and still have $20 in your pocket of Umbagogs. There's much better ways to spend your cigar money. But if you're looking for something that's really special and unique to mark a moment, it's a really good cigar for that. So
Time and place kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, does that mean that this one's going to also be $100?
yeah, they should be 118 because prices have gone up. But I don't know, it doesn't sound as sexy, $118. There's something about it being $100. Look, we make so few of them. It isn't a profit center for the company. I know most consumers go, oh, $100, these guys are getting rich on this, but you're only making a few thousand of these cigars every year. And so we made 1.6 million cigars last year. So a couple thousand unicorns, they don't move the dial, right? So unicorns are meant to be what they are. They're meant to be rare. They're meant to be special. They're meant to mark a moment. No matter how many unicorns I sell, I'm not going to get rich on unicorns, so why raise the price? The price on unicorns will go up when I start to lose money on unicorns. But as long as I can keep it at 100, because 100's just sexier than 118, right? It's just something, it's just something about it. Oh, it's $100. So I'm going to leave it alone because it's the only cigar we've never raised the price on. Everything else, because we've had to increase the prices as costs have gone up over the last 8 years, the prices have increased, but unicorns have always stayed flat. And the other thing too is we've gotten better at making them. Like when we made the first unicorns, we made 4,000 of them to throw 3,000 of them away to get them to pass quality control. But we've gotten better at it. So we don't have to make 4,000 to get 1,000 anymore. We're now able to make like 1,200, 1,300, right? So we're less wasteful, which now also helps to keep the price more. And now I'm able to put it in this really super fancy box, okay? Because again, we've just gotten better at it. So as long as I can leave the price there, I'm going to leave the price there.
Right on. So I was circling the booth. Aside from that, I also saw something else kind of different. Different but fitting. The Red Meat Lovers. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, Red Meat Lovers is, it's the only blend, it's the only brand I don't own. Red Meat Lovers is a gentleman in South Florida, Evan Darnell, that does these fancy, expensive steak charity dinners. And I had met him on a radio program, and he asked if I would make some cigars for one of his charity dinners, and I did. And from that, it ended up where I then started making them as a store exclusive for Smoke Inn. And that was like 5 years ago. And every year we would make more Red Meat Lovers. And I think the first year we did like maybe 500 bundles. And then it was like 900 bundles, and it was like 1,900 bundles. And like last year was like well over 5,000, I think. It's really become quite big. And Evan wants the brand to be nationwide. I like the way it was. It was nice. I get the order in March. I'd make the exact number of cigars. I had a guaranteed customer. I cashed a nice $400K check in November. Life was good. But in the end, Evan wanted to make the brand for everybody. And so I had the option of either making it or he was going to take the cigar and get it made somewhere else. But it wouldn't have been the same cigar because I own the cigar, I own the blend, I own the tobacco. So we're now making Red Meat Lovers available to everybody. It'll be interesting to see. The cigar is really good. It's kind of interesting because it's so rare that a retailer gets to buy a new product that already has a 5-year track record and literally like thousands of positive reviews. I mean, if you like search, it is so rare that you'll find anyone say anything even slightly negative about Red Meat Lovers. So it's like, it's got like a real built-in history. What I don't know is, will it be as successful when the consumer can buy it all the time versus the, hey, it's once a year kind of thing. So it'll be a really interesting thing to see. So what I ended up doing is every year we would make a different Red Meat Lovers. So I took my 2 favorites, which was the 6x52 Prensado and the beef stick format, and I kept those in the initial nationwide release. And then I made 2 new formats. I made a 6x60, which is rare for us. We don't do a lot of them. I don't tend to make a lot of gay porn star size cigars, So I ended up though doing a trunk press on it, so it ends up having more like a 56 feel in the mouth. And then I also made a Robusto, which I really like, the filet. And we're initially offering it to our retailers in these 4 sizes. And it's Connecticut broadleaf, medium full body, real earthy. If you like Mi Querida, I think you'll really like Red Meat Lovers, which is another question too. How much is Red Meat Lovers going to steal from my Mi Querida?
That you stole the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say, where does it land in your lineup?
I don't know. Well, and let me say this. This is one of the reasons why, as a company, so we make everything the same price-wise. So if we have, like Popettas are $7, right? Unicorns are $100. We don't pick those numbers out of the sky. I make the cigar, I figure out what it costs to make it consistently, and then we add a gross margin. And the gross margin that we add is the same on every product that we make. So the fact that Sin Compromisos cost more is because they cost more to make. The fact that Umbagogs cost what they cost is because they cost less to make. But we make the same profit margin on everything, no matter what it is. Because ultimately, I don't know what consumers are gonna like and what they're gonna buy. So I love all my children, but I don't wanna have one that I make so much more money on that I care more about that child than the other child. So in the end, if Red Meat Lovers steals from me Querida sales, then that's just the way it works, man. Go out there, fend for yourself. You know, if you don't cut it, and Red Meat Lovers is the one that customers want to smoke, and they smoke less Mi Querida, so be it.
Are all the meat lovers box pressed?
All of them but the beef stick. The beef stick is the only Pareo. And I'll probably keep the Red Meat Lovers, other than the beef stick, in a prensado format to give us some differentiation between the Mi Querida and the Tricky Tracas and the blacks. Because I mean, even though Red Meat Lovers is its own unique broadleaf blend, it's in the family. It's like the Mi Queridas, right? Blue, red, black. It's really a question of which you like best. The red is a little more peppery, a little more zingy. The black is a little heavier, a little denser. The blue is a little smoother, you know, more cocoa and cafe and a bit more cream. But it's all basically a very similar profile. It's really just kind of what shade of gray you like. And it's the same thing with Red Meat Lovers. Red Meat Lovers is in the genre. So if you like Mi Querida, Red Meat Lovers is worth trying. If you don't like Mi Querida, you're probably not going to be happy with Red Meat Lovers.
You said you don't do too many big cigars, right? Grand Buffalo would like a word.
I do a lot of Grand Buffalo, oddly enough. I don't make big cigars just because big cigars are popular. The blend has to work well in the large size. So it happens in the Mi Querida blend that the blend transitions well into that large 64 ring gauge. You notice in the regular Sobremesa, there isn't a cigar in regular Sobremesa over 52. That blend does not translate well in a larger size. I know if I made 6x60s, you're in the business, 6x60s are huge sellers, but I don't make it in regular Sobremesa because I don't think it tastes as good. But in Brûlée, in the Gordo, it works well in the Gordo, in the 6x60. So in that brand, I'm happy to do it, you know? So yeah, I don't just make it because the size is popular. The blend has to work in the size, or I have to be able to tweak it to work into the size. And some of them I can, and some of them I can't. And that's just my personal perception.
I like that. That's respectable, you know? You don't compromise anything. And also, hey, you might say sin compromiso, right? Eso, sin compromiso, mi querida, muestra, you know, where does it end? What's next for you after this?
This is actually becoming a bit of a problem. So we're in an industry that churns and burns. So most new cigars get released, and they're lucky if they're popular for a year or 2 years. So a lot of companies release new brands because they have to replace the flagging sales of the other brands. We're still making Sobremesa 8 years later. We don't have anything that's dying, and that's a blessing. Because most companies have like 1 or 2 cigars, you're like, oh, I know this cigar. This is what you identify the company with, you know what I mean? We're all over the map. I mean, even with the quirky stuff like Stillwell, right? So I think, I have to think I'm getting close to being done for a while. I have one project that I have to do. I have to come up with a factory solution for Brûlée, because we're making so many Brûlées that I have to find a way to use the materials that I'm buying that I don't think are worthy of being in a Brûlée, but are perfectly good materials to make a really nice Connecticut cigar out of. So just like with Umbagog is a relief valve, and now Pulpetta is a relief valve for all the broadleaf products we make, I'm gonna need to come up with a relief valve for all the Brûlée that we're making. So that's gonna be something that out of necessity to keep costs down, because look, if Umbagogs don't sell well and the new Pulpetta don't sell well, it just means me Querida prices are gonna have to go up by that much more, right? So I am getting to the point now that I have to figure out a product to offset my tobacco costs in the Brûlée line. So that's something that I'll be debuting next March. Hopefully, if the cigar's done, it's always packaging, right? Packaging is always the challenge. So, but I'm really happy with the portfolio. I think that there's something for the mild guy. I think there's something for the strong guy. I think there's something for the nuanced, elegant, and the sin. And I think it's a really nice product mix. I feel pretty good about it.
I like that all your stuff has, the same common consistency as far as quality and all that, but they're diverse enough. Some catalogs you see and they all blend together, but yours, it's a certain type of smoker that likes your cigar.
That, without naming them, I don't know what their new cigar tastes like, but I know what it tastes like. Because it seems like this is what they do as a factory. They make a particular genre, and they do it really, really well, and they always seem to make something new that's really just filling in for the sales that they're losing on the something old. And for me, I want the cigars to have a purpose. Look, I smoke it all across the spectrum, but most consumers don't. Because the guys that smoke Brûlée, Connecticut Shade, Mild Creamy, they smoke mild creamy cigars. And the guys that smoke Tricky Traca, they tend to smoke more peppery, dark, heavier cigars. And they don't really cross the frame. So I try to make something that fits one of the pillars of the basics, so there's something for everybody in there. But it's one of these things that I'm to the point now that there aren't really any serious gaps. I think the only gap that I have that I don't have a really good core product for is that super sharp, peppery kind of sizzle stick. Something that would be like some of the cigars that Pete makes or my father. But part of that's because of me. I like
Tricky Traca doesn't fall into that?
But it's still smooth. It's still got a workable retro hill. I like strong cigars and I like spice, but I don't like it to where it's so overwhelming. I don't like to feel like I'm getting beat up by a cigar. Now, but part of that's because I smoke 8 to 10 cigars a day. So I want to finish this cigar so I can like the next cigar. So it's kind of like my pattern. So even in strong stuff, for me, smooth is always important. And I think you can make a strong cigar that it also is smooth. But there is a consumer out there that really does like to get smacked in the face. Right?
The masochist smokers.
But look, it's what they like, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know what you like. It's the same thing. There are a lot of people that like that 122 proof whatever coming out of the barrel, right? I like it a little softer, me personally. So, but every once in a while, yes. And I'll smoke something like that. That's the only thing. I have a couple things that touch into it, like I think Unstolen Valor and Muestra. I think that's a pretty sharp cigar. You know what I mean? I think the U-Pote that I make as an exclusive from one of my stores, I think that crosses into that line. But I don't really have a core product that I think gives that so much. So that's probably the only place that I see a hole in the portfolio that maybe someday I'll address it. But in the end, I can't just make it because I don't have it. I have to make it and like it. Because that's always the thing I ask myself, am I willing to buy this? Not can I sell it, but would I actually, as a consumer, go into the store, open my wallet, and actually buy a box of this? And if I can't answer that question, say, yes, I would be willing to buy this, I don't feel comfortable trying to sell it.
That's awesome. That's amazing, and that's the way it should be, I think.
Not necessarily. Look, you have big factories that have thousands of employees that need to satisfy a much different market share, right? So I don't begrudge people that do that. You know, it's just a different business model.
Well, that's why you are who you are. And on that note, I know you're a busy man. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. Thank you once again for taking this time with us, Steve.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
But what do you think of Vegas, by the way?
I've been coming here for 30 years, like at least 2 times a year. I've had enough Vegas in my life. Yeah, I mean, it's not like back way when I'd come and it'd be the shows, and I'd be at the Cabana, and I'd be looking at the hot TNA, and, you know, a little gambling here and there. No, for me, it's all work. So for me, it's just sweaty balls and exhaustion. So I'm okay with it. There's worse places to go, but I don't know. The joy of Vegas has been sucked out a little bit for me. I remember when you used to get on the plane to come to Vegas, you have that kind of anticipatory, eager, like, oh my God, I can't wait to get there. I'm like, oh, going to Vegas again. So yeah, I'm not good for the travel board of tourism. They don't want me talking. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Hey, before you guys pop out, make sure you grab a Papa Saka sample because we're gonna run out.
We will. We appreciate that. Steve, thanks again, man. You're the best. Continued success, all right? Have a great show.